Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me for this very special conversation with Dagmara Asbreuk. We're going to have a deep conversation about the paradigm shifts that are happening right at the moment and are shaping the future of leadership. From endless and chaotic workdays to finding a state of flow and productivity, from feeling overwhelmed and stuck as leaders to leading from a place of clarity and alignment. We'll share how the leadership will help you reach extraordinary results. And so with me, Dagmara, she's the founder of Extraordinary Leadership, a strategic and transformational partner to CEOs, to executives, to founders. And after spending 15 years in global leadership, roles across Fortune 500 companies, she's now shaping the future of leadership and pioneering the extraordinary leadership paradigm. So when you will listen to her, you will understand how unique her approach to leadership is. She blends quantum leadership, energetics, and human consciousness as core pillars when she's helping the executives. Thank you so much, Dagmara, for being here with me.
Thank you very much for the invitation, Matthew.
This is such a special thing because you and I have had a lot of conversations. I remember the first one together, we spent 4 hours talking about leadership and we said, we wish we would have recorded it. So here we are to talk about this. Should we jump right into the topic? You ready?
Am I ready? Maybe.
Let's go.
Yes, I am ready. I think we are ready. And indeed, we just have 1 hour, right? For security of the people
correct.
Watching.
I'll time that. Don't worry. Yeah. 1 hour only today. But let's just jump right into the topic. Leadership as of today. We've discussed many times our opinion about how broken it is, how leaders are stuck, overwhelmed into the old paradigm that don't seem to work at all. What do you see in the leadership of today that is not working well?
That's a very nice question to start with. And I would start with saying that let's take away the broken. Because I think we need to also look at it at this is where we are as a result of our awareness and consciousness we had. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a time to move on, time to evolve in this paradigm, in our human development and consciousness and in leadership, as a matter of fact. So I think what we're facing today costs of this old paradigm, right? And of course, there are so many statistics that tells us already everything, right? Like a heartbeat and full speed in leadership. So obviously the statistics of engagement, which is low, the burnout rate, which is high. And also, thinking about executives, how many actually fail in the first 18 months, which is a 40% is a high rate, which was 40% fail in the first 18 months, which was something I learned from one of my peer and Nevit Nazemian, who is also in this field. And it's shocking, right? Yeah. And it just shows what? It shows that there is a huge complexity of every role, especially the higher you go. It shows there is a lot of stress and pressure, because we need to deliver. But it also shows that there is opportunity to look deeper and find out why we're here and what we actually can take forward. Because let's also not forget, we are in the era of AI and complexity is just basically speeding up so fast. And this is where the first problem comes, that we try to lead from the mind, right? And let our mind to guide us in this. But our mind get on overdrive because it's too much and we are in this overthinking one essence. And I think the other one is people needs are changing. The new generation has a different priorities. As the consciousness is rising, people are looking for authenticity more and not for autocratic leadership. And that also is coming as a wave, right? And challenging, of course, the old paradigm of control, of direction and fellowship. And I think the last ones is coming back to human itself, right? Thinking about how much stress and pressure we have just is a crying for more of state mastery, for alignment, for mastering the inner game, we can also call it in leadership, which I think is still overlooked or not supported enough in leadership development programs. And I'm talking here from my own, journey, right? So obviously part of this, where you ask me, where is the leadership comes from, what I'm observing because I'm working with clients. And of course, we're all living in this era. And I'm hearing those challenges all the time. And partially is because, as you mentioned, I've been myself, right, in 15 years in the corporate world. And I've been struggling with the same challenges. And this is the reason why actually years ago, I cleaned in.
And I have seen it. I've been a consultant for 6 years. And I have seen it in all of the boardrooms. I have seen the leaders being firefighting, controlling, couldn't delegate, have to put their nose on everything. And now it's just impossible. As you said, with AI going full speed, there is so much uncertainty. It goes so fast. It's the next edge. I need to be on it. I need to be considering how this is going to shape my business, my teams. Am I going to have to fire people? Am I going to be able to keep everyone? Will we keep innovating? Is the next competitor going to take over from us because they will leverage AI better? And I have to now figure this all out while also figure out inflation, figure out everything that is happening in the world, tariffs. And I could have a very long list, but I already don't have time to fully think about the future. And now the future is actually catching up on me because the future is now. And it's such that feeling of overwhelm that I see in everyone's eyes in boardrooms, and no one is able to take a step back because a step back is time and money, right? So is that the right vision that you see for the leaders in the boardrooms and the clients you work with?
Oh, there are a couple of trends, right, where I see where the future is heading. I think to start with this AI you brought, I think, yes, everybody will say, this is our trend. That's where we need to focus on. And of course we need, because those leaders that will be succeeding will know how to leverage on that. But that's not the only trend and future of reshaping, in especially leadership. We need to evolve as human beings. And these challenges that we just talked about are actually crying, right? Shouting or encouraging us or inviting us, in a nicer word, right? To actually evolve as human beings, to connect more within ourselves, right? To quiet the noise of this mind and the dominance that mind wants to solve all these problems that are too big for the mind, and connect with more intuition, with more heart, with authentic, true self, and actually unlock that immense power and magnetic power that, is there once we do that. And I think the second, to give a brief where I see that it's going, is also the realm that I have discovered a couple of years back, and you and me know it very well, is this whole quantum and energetics, right?
Yes.
The moment we come into that place, the game just starts to change completely, right? So that's where I personally feel that the leaders that will be shaping the future and succeeding and being relevant, right, to the system, and also knowledgeable, of course, but also impactful, right, and inspiring and leading the system, right, leading the organization, business as a system, empowering, trusting, that needs to happen. Those two things.
Beautiful. You've put so many different keywords that in my mind I always see as puzzle pieces. And right now I'm like, paradigm shift number one, you said about the effort always being on. Then it's going to be more about authenticity, alignment, power. You've kind of like already shaped them. So I would love for us to go one by one.
Sure.
And being able to really express what they are, looking at the old paradigm and the new one.
Luckily, I prepared for this conversation, Matthew.
Well, luckily, this is what you do every day, right? This is fantastic. So the first one, let's talk about the idea of effort, because I think this is really the most prominent one for leaders. If I slow down, if I stop, if I take a day off, if I work less than 16 hours, our business will run to the ground. I cannot take a break. That is what goes into the mind of the leaders. And I have seen it, and I have felt it as well. As a consultant, I experienced it as well. Huh?
Sure.
Guilty, in always wanting to do more for more results. Why are we so stuck in this paradigm? What is happening that we just can't? Is that identity? Is it external pressure? All of it. What's your take with why do we have to keep hustling even though this is running us to the ground, trying to keep something afloat?
Yes, that's a good starting point. Well, and I think we all have been victims to these paradigms, including myself. And first, I think a very basic why is because we didn't know the other way, and we've been locked in this limiting belief that which you just actually labeled, right? I need to work harder to get results. That's actually a belief of a system that we've been primed by for so many years. And we need to actually be now looking at it and checking, like, seriously, is that true? So if that would be true, we have enough strategies, we have enough frameworks, and we don't have lazy people going to leadership positions, isn't it, right? Everybody take action. So why are we struggling? Because that's not enough. That's not the effort and more doing and more action that is actually giving us the result. There is something different. There's something beneath. And that's the first starting point.
So you're saying I am only successful externally. Business is successful and I'm perceived as successful if I put on the long hours and if I keep on doing and keep on going for it. There is this idea that you cannot make money if it's easy. Is that correct?
Also, could be. Yeah. Yes, I think that's all of those associated beliefs, which comes, of course, ingrained in us. And here, especially, I want to underline this is so universal. This is not very personal. Actually, they're very universal limiting beliefs that we bought into And that's why it keeps us in working hard
Yes.
and believing by working hard we'll achieve more, which is actually a beautiful narrative of one of the 10 saboteurs, and you know the names
Yep.
of hyperachiever. And I have been victim of a hyperachiever for many years, over 34 years. And it still sometimes show up, obviously. And what we're doing in this, but it's not only actually hyperachiever for any saboteur and running our system, we'll come back to that. What we both into is this belief and conviction, I would say. When I do this, I'm successful.
Yeah.
When I achieve, I'm successful. That means also when I'm not achieving, what does it mean about me? Am I successful leader? Am I worthy? Am I valuable? Am I appreciated? Am I inspiring? This is what it goes about. And that's very deep identity wiring. You ask me for the reason why. It's wired in our identity and in a conditioned identities.
And the full
that we
society
developed.
rewards that anyway,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
if you're a thinker, unless you're one of the few that have been putting their thoughts into papers and have been famous with it, the other ones are doing. And this is one of the things with the Stoic philosophy. There's a book, I think it's Ryan Holiday, the book is The Obstacle is the Way. And I've had many conversations with my partner, and now we don't believe in this. What does that mean? There's a wall in front of you. You just have to punch the wall with your bare fist until you went through. Well, maybe there's a door just there. But this idea of I have to just keep going, whatever it takes, and not even being able to take a step back. Maybe a better picture, just there.
We are afraid to slow down. And you mentioned that we are afraid to slow down because we have bring these things. We're never going to slow down. But I also want to add one thing, because for me personally, discovering that other paradigm on just this parameter, a paradigm, we can call it being, we can call it where state actually is the central priority, has been just 3 years ago. Right? I have not been aware of that when I was in my corporate career yet, because that has not even come across, any leadership development program that me there. So I'm also going back to this awareness and how many people have now, of course, more of that is being vocal, quite a lot luckily in entrepreneurship world where we both are. So I think we are on this beautiful snowball and there are already people and business owners and coaches on that. And I think that's the second wave is going to happen also for the corporates, right? So this understanding is actually the energy behind the action that make a difference. Of course, understanding the resonance that we constantly attract and our circumstances reflect basically our insight, right? That all comes from conscious leadership, right? Or quantum leadership. So not every organization is yet at that level of understanding. And then having solutions, having a really practical solution. How do we elevate and manage state? And how do we align to, lead?
So you're talking about as a counter of this old paradigm to be more in a state of being, you said, or in a state of flow. Can you describe them in the most simple way or tangible way? Because what I want is, I'd love for a leader to be able to recognize first, I'm someone who cannot stop. I think that's quite easy. But as we said, the other part, what is the alternative? It seems to me so difficult to understand. If I spend 10% less time on my business, I'm going to 2x or even 10x my business. It's so counterintuitive. So sharing about this flow and how can you incorporate the flow by taking a step back in order to achieve more or not to be more successful without necessarily doing more seems very hard to grasp. So how would you explain that in the
Yes, you challenged me that on it. To be very honest, if today the listeners do not yet grasp it, I'm not going to say anything because it took me time to understand it, to be very honest. And there are different degrees and layers to that. So I think let's make the best we can because that at least it can be a sparkle for someone to be curious to find out more about it actually. So I think the first is, for me, what was an eye-opener is to understand that everything is energy. We live in a world of energy and quantum physics already actually proved it, right? And then the second, what was interesting for me to discover is that this law of resonance exists. Not the law of attraction. We also know it's not about positive thinking, right? It's a law of resonance, because I also understood in there that actually we are energy. We have an energetic blueprint, right? It's not on everything is actually energy. Our mind, our thoughts, our emotions, how we feel, everything actually, the end is in a form of energy that vibrates, right? And we can call it also state, right? And there are two things now. Number one, what that awareness gave me. Number one, I learned that it's that state, that feeling inside, that energy that you emanate, first of all, is going to make a huge impact. It's like imagine entering the room and you are unsettled inside, you are not confident or maybe a chaotic. People feel that.
Yes,
You think they
absolutely.
don't? This is exactly
We
what they
know
feel.
about that in dating. We know about that in
Exactly.
everything, but we
Exactly.
just don't consider it in
Exactly.
business.
We can look outside very confident, but inside, no, that was my reality for many years in the past. And that was creating resistance in people I was leading. That was creating conflicts and conversations which were not easy.
Correct.
And that was just, that time I was unaware. That was just a saboteur dance that we were doing all the time because one was triggering the other. And then you are in a beautiful dance, right? So that number one is to understand that your state is the impact, is the ripple effect. And every leader wants to make an impact. So this is number one priority that we need to master is our own state inside, how we feel inside. And you mentioned flow. When we are in flow, we know it many times when we are on vacation, under the shower, it's just this ease, right? It's just clarity of the mind and no tension in the body, no contraction in the body.
Exactly. It's when you go and take a walk with your dog and suddenly the ideas come. Something you've been pondering for 2 days, and how do I need to keep that person? Should I fire that person? That's my decision. And you've been at it for days, you cannot make it. You go away from your business and suddenly it's coming.
And
that's why we talk about the shower thoughts, right?
And that's a beautiful example that you're bringing, because when mind tries to solve things, we are in hard thinking. We're using literally a left side of the brain, just one part of our brain. And that part is limited.
Yes.
And so there is another part of ourselves, another part of literally of our brain, which is more creative. We can call it also intuitive. It's lightness, it is. And so that's why we operate that language. But we need to first be in a state attuned to that intuition. And that means we need to be more relaxed.
That is so difficult. I used to be someone of the mind. I was a consultant. I was paid for my mind, for what this thing can produce as value for the organization. So I had not understood at all what you mean. I'm talking 4 years ago, something like this. That's your second paradigm. This is using the mind in accordance with the heart. Is that correct? It's using both head and intuition and bringing both together in order to make the decisions, the right ones, to combine logics with feelings, right? Is that how you would describe that idea of the duality of both?
I'm thinking about two things to add here. So there are so many ways and everybody will explain different. And that's what makes it beautiful. So let's say, if you ask me what does it mean to be in aligned flow, right? We can first use the neuroscientific explanation is a coherence between mind and heart, right? People even including Joe Dispenza has a ton of stuff around it, right? Or Heart Math Institute, so that's kind of number one. Number two is just the feeling that you know that as human beings. That's when we are more relaxed. And when we are not in flow, to simply say it, we are somewhere contracted. Yes. Usually we feel it in the middle of our body, in our area of solar plexus, like the stress.
As well.
Or people will have some heaviness of the chest or quite
tension on the shoulders.
Exactly. Those are just signs. The easiest human symptoms, I'm out of my alignment. I'm now in hard thinking. Now mind wants to take control. And there is the other part of me, which we can call in many different ways, right? That is so much more intelligent and so much more potential and so much more knowing and already knows more than my mind knows. How do I connect with that part?
But that's exactly what a leader will tell you. It's useless for me to make decisions. Decisions happen in the brain, don't they?
Well,
I'm throwing you a bone here.
Very much. It depends, of course, what is the wiring. So not necessarily everybody will say that. I think there is more awareness about emotional intelligence now, by far, luckily, which is very connected to what we talk about, which actually emotional intelligence is a result of aligned state. And maybe here, I have created like pyramid shape, or I call it the legacy leader blueprint. First of all, for myself, and then how I explain it to others, to comprehend the basic fact that, your abilities as a leader in different shape or form to make decisions, to lead your team to the greatness, to develop your people, to think strategically, this is all impacted by what? By two layers. Layer number one, which everybody knows, emotional intelligence, visionary thinking, executive presence. Those are the language we operate. But actually, not many goes to the real root. And that's your baseline. I call it a baseline. And what's your baseline? It's your identity and all subconscious wiring, right? It's your state that we're talking about. And it's your consciousness. Those three things makes you who you are today, shaped by the past. And you have a chance to change it. And you need to change it, because if you don't elevate that baseline, you will always fall to this baseline, no matter how beautiful goals you will set for yourself, high goals. The reason why you struggle to achieve them is because your baseline keeps you in, no, I'm not ready yet. I'm not there. This is not what I want, right? So sorry for deviating from a conversation, but you mentioned that it's very
perfect.
important to mention.
It's perfect. And now I'm trying to get to the voice of the leader who is watching this and is screaming at the screen saying, how do I make decisions? Not only for my mind, it seems like that's the way to do. So how are you able to tune in your body? What does that actually mean to tune in into your body in order to make a decision?
Yes, it can become very woo to people, right? First of all, to hear that. And frankly speaking, I'm like reminding myself one moment in my life and where I was sitting in front of a person that was more attuned to that already than myself. And she was also a coach. And I was a leader in a corporate, having my challenges and trying to, of course, solve those problems all in the mind and overthinking, analyzing. And she looked at me and she said, you need to connect with your heart. Yeah. And I was like, thank you for the advice. I have no idea how.
Yeah, what the hell are you talking about? Can you please put your 2 feet on the ground?
And
you're like, what?
I understood her. That probably makes sense what she's saying. So I think the leaders are already in the face, most of the leaders, like, I get it. How? Obviously, the journey to how can make many angles. But practically speaking, one of the first tools and resources that I like to bring to people is called mental fitness. And you are aware about that too, right? Mental fitness.
Mental fitness,
Positive intelligence. That's important to mention because there are, I think, different frameworks. And the reason why I like to bring it is because that makes the bridge for most of the clients that are very intellectual, and leaders are intellectual. And that make a bridge between hard intellectual and, of course, not understanding it, the autopilot conditioning, which in this framework is called saboteurs, towards starting to get connected with that aspect of true self, how connected with being more present, right? So that is one way that I prefer to bring to clients because it ticks many different also things. And usually there are a lot of breakthroughs happening because it's a visceral process. So that's kind of number one. But if people don't have yet a tool or just want to experience something, the very first thing is to start to be more present with yourself. Yeah. The very simplest thing that you can do is create yourself in the morning a time, because you need to start to do that anyway. You need to create space for yourself, which is a very big challenge for most of the leaders as well.
Because everything happens in your head. Of course,
you have to be everywhere.
Yeah.
But that's like a must. If there is one thing that I would love you to take away from this, starts to creating your morning routine, take 15 minutes. It's your time. Every single day, intentionally. And what you do in this morning, because you are in a more, tuned to subconscious, more tuned, more alpha brainwaves and all of that what you do in this time is, first of all, start with even breathing, close the eyes and take a deeper breaths and just to start to connect with how do I feel right now? Because many leaders need to first attune to that body, right? To the inside. They are so much in the head that they are disconnected here, right? So that's the first simple exercise. And the second is you may ask yourself is, what is the most important for me today? Or what do I want to be grateful for at the end of the day? Those are the different type of questions. Or who do I want to be today? But if you haven't worked on who might be.
How do I want to show up?
Yes. Or how do you want to show up? Exactly. Yeah. Very good point. Or what's my intention for today, right? This brings intentionality. And I think there's so much more, right? Yeah. So that is why we have different programs and different...
And of course, we have limited time to go through all of this. And it seems sometimes that we're talking about changes that will take months to master. But I use one very simple tip that takes me 1 minute. And I do this when I have back-to-back meetings. Because this is what happens with a leader, right? Hey, thank you so much. So I'll share the recap of the talk. And there's all of this energy. And I'm late for my next person. And he's already waiting for me. And now you click on the next link. And you're like, hey, sorry, I'm late. And how are you doing today? Wow, we were supposed to... Take a breather. Take just 1 minute, 60 seconds. The person can wait. You can always finish that meeting 60 seconds earlier. You take 60 seconds for yourself. You just close your eyes, breathe in and out slowly. If you want to do box breathing, if you want to do 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out for coherence, whatever you want. But just like, hey, how am I doing? That was an intense meeting. That is done. Now we have Dagmara just now. She's waiting for me. And I just want to respect her by showing fully for her and be present. Click. And that's it. This has changed everything. I would go half an hour meetings all day long. I would have 10 in a row. And I was becoming number at the end of them, there was just a robot speaking.
Yeah, that's the micro PQ reps, we call
Yeah.
it, from the framework of positive intelligence. And it's just the breathing and intentionality. So I like this example because this is, so that I think the second we already can give as a second golden nuggets here, that what to do out of this conversation today is to plan and plan some time in between. We will not have space in between every. But actually what you just said is also setting intentionality. And there are two things. One thing is intentionality, which is going back to your energy impacts, right? So if you are in negative emotions or any off balance, then this will impact this meeting. So by doing what you just said, you regulate yourself, you bring yourself to groundness. But there is a second point you asked me before about the decisions. In order to take your decision from a deeper wisdom and intuition, you need to start practicing those longer moments of quieting your mind.
Of course.
And this is where you train your mind to actually quiet the noise of the mind that is so loud and is sabotaging you all the time. And you develop gray cells in your brain actually to activate more a different part of your regions even in your brain. And that is where that region of your brain is connecting you with your intuition as well.
Yeah.
So that's in simple terms how in terms of what needs to be done. But so
it feels
it
like
requires
it's now,
practice.
I don't want this to feel, because I know you really well, that you're telling the people be 1 hour in a meditative state every day, because
No.
that's too much. That's uncomfortable when you start practicing this awareness and the reset of your nervous system. So it could just be going for a walk. Hey,
Yeah.
now I'm going to go and buy some groceries downstairs instead of ordering it. And I will go just with my wallet, without my phone. So I'm not on the way checking emails and still on. I'll just take the time to look around.
Sure.
I'll buy the stuff I need to buy. I'll come back. Boom, 10 minutes. And that makes a big difference.
And there is also, you can on the Spotify, if you think about the hacks and small things, even playing your calming music will start to actually attune your nervous system to it. And there are so many options when you just think about those little things, which of course I also use because we have a variety. It's just
Of
our
course.
toolbox.
For music you
Yeah.
like, that brings
Yeah.
you an energy from the past, reminds you some positive experiences to actually, how do you call that? Binaural hertz? That
Also, but it doesn't need to be even that sophisticated.
Okay.
It can be really like natural music with
Yes.
water flow.
sounds
Recently
of
I've
nature,
learned.
the rain. I love the rain.
Yeah.
The rain and the thunderstorm.
So this is when
As a
you want
background.
to calm down, right?
Very good. So summarizing that second point, if you had to say, because we're talking about mind and heart coherence, showing up with both, what would you tell the leader just now in a sentence to summarize everything we've said about this is the next thing you could do? Not the one thing, not the biggest thing, but what would be the next step for the next meeting for tomorrow morning?
I think we actually already said it, to be very honest. It takes, in the morning, take these 5 minutes for yourself.
For
And-
you, that takeaway is
Yeah.
the 5 minutes one. And my takeaway would be the 1 minute in between
Yeah.
back-to-back meetings.
And what you
So-
do is very similar, actually. It's just longer or shorter process. So it's like the same thing, right?
Correct. And it's just carving those little times, as you
Yeah.
said. The 55 minutes meetings instead of a 1 hour meeting works wonders. Plan meetings for 55 minutes and not for 1 hour. And,
Yes.
and keep that in check. People
Yes.
will know very quickly. That will change.
And I think, Matthew, maybe one thing, because you mentioned before, it's important, because people might feel this resistance of, oh, it will take me so much time now. It's so complicated. But actually, it goes about those small, daily, small minutes habits, because they are important, because that's how we shift, how we change, because everything is habitual. So it's not about 1 hour meditation in the morning.
Exactly. Or 2
Which,
weeks
by the way,
holiday.
meditating is great. But it is why I will come back to what we're learning into mental fitness and other energetic activations that I create myself. It's about those shorter things. That's shorter and more practical.
Alrighty. So I want to open to the third, how you call them, third leadership shift. Is that how we would say it? How we'd call it? So third one, we talk a lot about proving and proving yourself capable, proving yourself worth it, which actually goes really well with the first one we talked about, which was the obligation to always be on, always be doing, and etc. And it's really interesting. My consulting career was 6 years long. I was working for a few companies, and then I was like, this is too slow. I just want to be doing more, helping more organizations. This is how I can have more impact. So let's set my consulting agency and start having more clients. And I remember when I quit the job and I told the CEO, this is what I'm going to do. He told me, oh, you're not going to be able to succeed. It's really hard. Who do you think you are? And I've realized 6 years later that one of the big reasons I have been so successful and pushing and working so hard was because in the back of my head, there was this person telling me, you're not going to succeed, you're not going to do it. And for me, I would have loved to come to him and be like, did you see my bank account? I'm successful. This is the clients. This is all of this, right? So him, and of course my parents, this is always the same scheme. We always are doing things also with childhood traumas and etc. So it's been really hard for me in the consulting part to do it without having to prove. And that's what I try to change with conscious leaders was to, I'm not doing that for anyone. I'm doing that because I believe in this mission and in this vision. But now, if I don't have anything to prove, what do I do? So I want to talk further about this proving versus what is on the other side. If you don't have anything to prove to anyone.
Attracting, and being in your power, actually. And leading from your authentic self. So obviously this topic is so universal to everybody. I think I've been there for so many years, and it's, again, I don't want to portray myself like I'm done, right?
Of course, and yes.
We can always go back to that very easily, and then, but the difference is we understand and we know how to shift. That's the mastery of life, right? So we can take it from many different places, but to keep it concise, what I would love leaders to know, which is what I discovered by stepping into coaching, because I've been in the same paradigm, let me say. And that time I was very sensitive to any feedback. Every success was on the line, and it was constant proving. Of course, I go back, I could know exactly where it came from. And this is where I'm trying to actually explain it, that, everything is shaped very young in the childhood, from the 0 to 7, right? And in that time, our identity, our belief system, and our value system is all shaped. And in this time, some of our human needs are not met. And the basic ones is for love, for attention, and for feeling that we are enough. And you didn't need to have a trauma. Like, I experienced trauma in my childhood, so it's very easy for me to find the roots. But actually, it doesn't need to be any very big thing. It can be just simple. Your mom delivered you to bring you to the kindergarten, and you felt like somebody abandoned you. And boom,
Correct.
You are going to prove that I'm not loved, right? So those are the creepy base. Usually it's 3, I'm not safe, I'm not loved enough, or accepted enough, or valued enough, I am not enough, generally. And I need to prove myself, right? Because I need to prove myself that I'm valued, that I'm successful, blah, blah. First of all, we need to understand that there are those conditioned autopilots running our systems. And they are... Again, we're going back to refer to the ones that Shizatshimi has developed, because it helps us faster to understand them. There are 10 different patterns we can run into: the pleaser, achiever, avoider. They're just different personas, different entities. Different voices in our head at the end, but they are rooted in different identities. I see them as identities, right? They're not just voices, right? They steer our thoughts. They steer our behaviors. And then we identify with themselves. I'm a pleaser, right? I am avoider. I am. This is identification, right? The moment you say I am, you lost. You are in this locked in this identity. So anyway, those things are just coping mechanism, which we're running mostly unconsciously about. The moment we start to unpack this box and usually come into coaching or similar type of processes, which for me was 10 years ago, and you start to open these things and say, wow, that's running my system. That's what subconsciously, which I don't hear myself, is playing around, that I'm trying to all the time prove myself because of something happens in the past. And that's what I took as a narrative, and that's how I run my system. But it's not true. And the most important we need to understand is our RAS in the brain, right? I always have problems with the whole name of it. There is a part of our brain that is obviously acting as a filter. What does it mean? Every belief, subconsciously or consciously, we have about ourselves, about the world, is just a filter. That is how we see the world. That is how we see ourselves. We see nothing else. And in your example, if you are, for example, having a belief, which I know very well, I'm not good enough, right? Or I'm not successful enough, no matter amount of success that people will see from the outside, you will never feel successful, because you are attached and wired by this success. And so you'll be chasing this success all the time, but will never have enough, because your brain and your subconscious is telling you, no, that's not enough. We need more. And it's like hungry monster.
Absolutely. Which you keep on feeding all the time. And that is the issue. So how do I stop as a leader feeding that monster? Let's take the I am not enough monster. How do I stop feeding it how do I start reframing it, changing the perspective, so actually I can start being more myself and less on this bank, as you said, of voices or patterns of autopilot?
I would love to say,
Do 1, 2, 3.
I would love to say, do 1, 2, 3, and you are healed and you are relieved.
I was waiting for the 1, 2, 3.
Yes. And I'm asking myself to reply to that because, frankly speaking, if that was 1, 2, 3, we would not have coaching industry running. Very, very honestly speaking.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So humans by nature, so you have to imagine that we've been running for 35, 40, 50 years sometimes on that tape. So first of all, we need to actually take away the expectations that tomorrow, by just saying to myself, by affirmation, which doesn't work, by the way, in that way at least, I'm enough, it's going to work, right? So because your system is going to reject it, right? So the more practical way, I think, is first of all to connect and to be your best parent. Self-love is actually the first, very important part in this journey usually. And what you can do in moments where you need to, first of all, be very aware that actually these thoughts are coming in the moment. Knowing that this is what runs your system is not enough. You need to develop the muscle to catching yourself in the moment.
Yes, exactly.
So
that's this
building that
awareness.
oh, who is running the system now? Who is running the show? Oh, what is the thoughts I'm hearing? Oh, I'm not enough. Oh, here we go again. And you can make a joke a little bit about it. Here we go again. And basically, this is the moment where the responses are plenty. But one of the responses, you can basically, even honestly speaking, be yourself pet parent and hug yourself and say, it's okay. It's okay. I'm enough. I'm more than enough. There is the work in front of a mirror. You can remind yourself, I am enough. Even Marissa Peerce is so famous for that, right? But you need to do it intentionally and emotionally. It's just not about I'm enough and just it's not a mental exercise. It's about really connecting with that and feeding into it. That's why it's become a mantra.
Back with this mind versus and mind plus heart coherence, where you actually feel it. I love the what you're saying with alignment and awareness, because they're also with one of the old paradigm where you said before knowledge was power, and now this is all about alignment and awareness. We're talking about alignment and awareness a lot already, but why was knowledge the power, and why is it not enough, or why does it need to change from this as of today?
From all the AI. And most of the knowledge we can get by looking at ChatGPT, isn't it? So how do I do ABC? You can go and basically find in ChatGPT actually every strategy you can get. So that become obsolete. I don't need to know everything. Even at school, my children are learning differently than me, because we don't need to learn any more hard thinking, actually, to be honest, which is good.
So interesting how this is changing the entire education, which means this is changing exactly how we are growing. Because before I had exams on the capitals in the world and all of that stuff, and now this is just in my pocket.
Now different capabilities are more valued, and they will be shifting all the time because the speed is so fast. Awareness and alignment, two different keywords. And what I would like to mention here, because we talk a lot about many aspects already. Awareness is, of course, first of all, the basic awareness means catching yourself in the moment. Who is running the show? Is it your saboteur or old identity? However you name it, you will need to build that awareness, obviously. But who is running the show? That's part of the awareness, we can say.
And awareness, it goes well with your thoughts, but also goes well with your actions and your behaviors.
Absolutely.
Right?
The thoughts always will be connected with how you feel inside, with your emotions, and within they form the state, an energetic state, and that will form if you do or not, right? If you take this action or not. So whenever you have negative emotion, always knows that there is a story in your mind. Of course, not conscious, but subconscious. So be curious about it. That's the first part of awareness we can build. But there is more important thing when you think from quantum perspective. I love that one.
Let's go in there.
Everything is a mirror. Your circumstances in the life, in the business, even how your discussion goes with somebody, and if it doesn't go the way you want, right? It's just a mirror of your inner world. So what that means is that gives you feedback where you need to shift. Let's take an example. Your team is all the time in this kind of resistance mode, waiting mode. The key question you need to ask yourself is, where are you waiting? Where are you resisting? This is the feedback you're getting from the outside, from the field, we can call it, from the electromagnetic field.
You're saying that because they're mimicking something you are not doing or not expressing.
That's not about mimicking, which is about human behavior. That's about energy and resonance. That's about attraction. That's about the fact that our energy is actually influencing others, and they are actually responding to my energy. So in this example, they are helping me to see, and that's the genius of awareness from the quantum perspective. They are helping me to see where I need to shift. And then I shift the perspective. Oh, it's me that I need to shift something.
Correct.
One of my clients recently came because his team was disengaged, disconnected. But this moment he understood that's mirror of my own disconnection. Boom, everything shifted. As an example. For me, I'm noticing the same, right? Who am I attracting as clients? Resonate with my state of energy and in alignment.
Yeah.
So I take it as data. And that's what I love about this perspective, because it's not only about what thoughts and what emotions. Yes, this is the second step. But actually with that, this is such a powerful information.
Absolutely. And this is how, when you see you're aligned or you're fully embracing that higher vibration, this is where you see opportunities attract. This is how we've met. This is how we've had such a great connection. This is how suddenly we're doing a podcast, and all of this comes with this intention of sharing, of being present, being authentic. But if, for example, the first time I meet you, I place myself in a position of superiority, you're going to feel that and you're going to react in a place where you're going to either put yourself in a place of inferiority or you're going to challenge that thoughts. And from this, we're not going to have the same conversation. You're going to be like, oh, well, Mathieu was a jackass. I'm not going to meet him anymore and I will never do a podcast with him. But is that a good example that illustrates how through one's energy, the other replicates that or mimics that? Is that?
So I think personally, where I'm at with this in terms of my own awareness, yes, of course, there is a lot of mimicking because there are mirror neurons in the brain. So obviously, as a leader, everybody look up to you and that wants to mimic your behaviors as well, by the way, because that's the mirror. And this is, first of all, because it's authority figure, but also mirror neurons is from the neuroscience, right? That's why we're in saboteur dance or stage dance, right? We are, which is stage dance, let's call it this way. And the second, for me personally, where I'm at with my own awareness is sometimes you meet people and you cannot yet explain that situation, why it is happening. You feel actually you're aligned. Why do you meet them? And you meet them because they are helping you to see something that you don't see yet. And so at the end, everything always happens for a reason.
Absolutely.
And that's why I love that when we talk about awareness, it's not just about your thoughts and emotions and how you impact others, but actually they help you to understand yourself. Mm-hmm. You meet someone that trigger you, as an example, right? What does it mean? It doesn't mean that something is about that person. Yes, this person has his own journey. But that means that trigger is for you to explore.
Yeah.
That is also a part of awareness.
And also the fact that you can, in the end, only control how you feel and think. You cannot control how others will think and feel. This is all, of course, your work, which is a very important part for leaders, going back to how as leaders we want to direct, we want to be everywhere. This is, no, I need to put my grain of salt on every project. I need to make sure this is done this way because it's only my way. And now me thinking about this, going to the previous pattern of how I was controlling. And that control today is one of the big issues that you can see from leaders and one of your old paradigm as well that you're talking about, right? So letting go of control, blocking and stopping this old paradigm, what does it bring and what does it translate to? On the
opposite is trust, of course.
Trust, yeah.
So, and control, to be very short, is just mind wanting to have a control. It's not you who wants to have a control. It's your mind trying to keep you in control. And the other side is the trust, which is absolutely needed in leadership. And many leaders, of course, struggle. I struggled with that a lot. And that what helped me was my inner growth, right? Was letting go of that attachment to all those different narratives and beliefs that we have, because that's part of a process. We cannot not do that to embrace the new. And the new, actually, what you discover in a process is the real you, that powerful, authentic self. That is like the story of the Buddha, is the gold Buddha, but it's clustered with a lot of protection mechanisms. And you need to, letting go of this thing that doesn't serve you, is cleaning that part and shining, right? That's why we call it also becoming magnetic, right?
Yes.
Because authenticity is what resonates, actually.
So we're talking about trust. We're talking also about empowerment, I guess. Right?
One leads to the other. So basically, I think it's also the other important part for the leaders is embracing coaching skills and really shifting in a mindset from being an expert to being a catalyst of the change. So there is also that layer that needs to happen from I know it all and I will tell you how to do, being a teacher, and also a mentor. Mentorship is good, but it has its limits. That's why I absolutely stand for embracing powerful questions in conversations, guiding it intentionally, and helping others to see and find solutions, because that's how we actually build ownership in the organization, right?
Yeah.
So that's amplification of the skills that needs to happen. Mindset and skills needs to happen.
I saw that a lot in my corporate career, where you would have the leaders that would not want to empower their teams because they were afraid that they would replace them.
Of course, there are many fears.
Right?
That's always the fear.
If you, my manager, and now coming for my role, where does that put me? Well, if you're a fantastic leader, that should put you to the next big step. And that should be what we want as leaders as well, wanting to be extraordinary leaders, bringing extraordinary results. We should want to create extraordinary leaders, and that those people are actually the ones that are transforming with us while we transform, and then we can elevate as well, and everyone elevates together, right?
Absolutely. The easiest way actually is to see this. The longer you are going to protect out of fear your role, you're never going to grow. So extraordinary leaders, when they come into the role, ask themselves this question: who will become my successor? Because that's the only way you can elevate.
Yeah.
And guess what? I found myself in that trap too in the past. I was the glorious expert on a topic. So I know what does it mean exactly. And then process of letting go is also not easy sometimes, because it's like your baby, right? But that's the only way. And then not only shifting that mind, but seeing yourself, your role is different. Your role as a leader is to multiply the impact and grow in the organization. And you are the orchestrator. You are the catalyst of unleashing potential. And you cannot do it if you have not unleashed your own potential. This is impossible.
Absolutely.
You cannot go to the training of even how, which questions do I ask, and frameworks of leading conversations and strategically and all of this intentionally, until you have let go of those fears and narratives and biases that keep you stuck. It's simple.
Wow. I mean, this is, you and I could be talking about all of this for 10 more hours, and I hope we will continue to do that and continue sharing that. But for now, this is all the time we have. I just want to thank you so much. This is so refreshing. All along the conversation, I love that you said many times, I also have those flows. I am also on the path. I am on the ways. Because everywhere we see those coaches that say, I'm better than you, and you want to be me, and I'm flawless, and please elevate to there, but making sure that I'm always better. And you did the complete opposite. You showed up as a human. This is me. I'm just trying to be better. And thank you so much for doing that, because very refreshing. We need more leaders like you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It was awesome to be in this conversation. And yes, of course, I know we could conversate for many more times to come. So maybe a hint for the next time. Thank you very much, Matthew, for allowing me space as well to share.
That was a very deep conversation, and I am sure there's a lot to take in. Maybe one invitation for you at that moment is to note, to figure out, to reflect on one thing that you're taking away from the conversation. And then I invite you to go on theextraordinaryleadership.com. This is Dagmara's website. There, she talks about all of those paradigms, of course, in much more depth. But she's also inviting you for a 20-minute conversation with her, where you could just go with your question and you could just ask her directly, this is what I learned, or this is what ticked for me. And you can get away from the conversation with some clarity on how you can take your leadership to the next level. Thank you so much again for watching, and see you next time.